Hello, everyone, and thank you, Mendy, for inviting me on to talk to everyone about what I do. My name is Kevin Milstein, and I run the Reagan Milstein Foundation, which is a foundation that's named after my late son, Reagan. 10 years ago this weekend, Reagan passed away, and obviously as being a parent and the family were devastated by the loss. But we wanted to do something to honor him. And there were two things that he loved most. He loved his football or soccer, and he also loved to help people. So we decided to set up a foundation in his name so that we could keep his name alive in the community and do what he wanted, just to help people. Before I get on to the work of the foundation, I note that his yahrzeit falls in between the Parsha, Vaetchanan, and also around the end of Tisha B'Av. As you will hear from someone else, Vaetchanan actually means I plead, which is exactly, obviously, what we did when Reagan was ill for the 3 weeks before he passed away. We obviously all pleaded for help. But it's also fortuitous that this also comes around the end of Tisha B'Av, which obviously in Jewish history, Tisha B'Av is a tragic date. And for us, losing Reagan was our Tisha B'Av. However, even with the tragedies that unfolded, there was light at the end of the tunnel. This was not the tunnel that we chose to walk through. However, in the end, it just showed that even through tragedy, you can create something to help others. And obviously, we're doing this in Reagan's name. To just explain a bit about what the foundation does is we do help less fortunate communities around the world and in Australia in trying to achieve their football dreams. Sometimes just other sporting dreams as well. We have helped financially with children and with communities, but we also collect boots and uniforms and other sporting equipment, and we send them off all around the world. We have been as far as Brazil, Macedonia, Lesotho, and as far as Dandenong too. We have been all over the world. Importantly, sport is the great leveler. Sport brings people together in a manner of respect and understanding and being able to work with each other and play with each other, particularly when it comes to team sports. And that's what the foundation is all about, is being able to bring people together of all sorts of diversities and being able to play under the one banner, play a sport and get to know each other. I have personally seen in many circumstances where people that don't speak the same language, certainly don't come from the same background, but if you put a ball on the ground between them, they'll start playing a game and they'll start making friends. And really that's what we need to do more and more in this world, is being able to start understanding and respecting each other and being able to be friendly while still being competitive. That's the important part of sport as well. Another thing that I see often, particularly in the Australian community, is how much we actually have compared to those that don't have. You'd be surprised that I'm collecting secondhand boots and secondhand uniforms in many instances, and these items are virtually like gold when you take it out to people that don't have anything. So it's always a very leveling experience of collecting these items and being able to hand it out to the people that don't have. All I can ask you to do now is, if you want to jump onto our Facebook page, look for the Reagan Milstein Foundation, or our website, which is www.rmf.world. That's just www.rmf.world. And please, if you think you've got some old boots, some old uniforms, contact me. I'll happily collect them. Maybe you drop them off at Mendy's. He's got a bin there for collections as well. And let's make this world a much better place. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom to you all.
Hi. Hi everyone, my name's Maxine and welcome to my kitchen. I'm here today to give you some healthy tips that I use in my daily life to try and ensure that my diet is as healthy as it can be, especially at the moment. So the first thing that I do, and I think it's something that we all know we should be doing, is eat more fruit and vegetables. So I think it's really important that fruit and vegetables are the mainstay of our diets. It's something that we can easily sort of forget about, but it's something that's really important to add a lot of fiber into our diet, to add a lot of nutrients and minerals into our diet. So how do we do that? One of the things that I think is a really easy way to add more fruit and veg into your diet is if you're having, for instance, a pasta, like a Napolitana pasta, I often will add to that just throw in a handful of spinach at the end of the cooking of my pasta, or if I'm feeling a bit more adventurous, I will saute up some mushrooms, zucchini, shredded carrot, and I'll add that into the Napolitana sauce. And if you'd like to take that a little bit further, you can make a homemade Napolitana sauce, or you can use a jar-bought version. It doesn't really matter, but something that's important also to look for if you're buying a Napolitana sauce is to look at the ingredients. I think it's really important to always read the ingredients and know what you're eating. There are options out there that have a lot of sugar in them or use a lot of very hydrogenated oils. So reading your ingredients and buying an option that maybe doesn't have sugar or doesn't have those type of oils in it is more beneficial to your health. Another thing that I like to do is to overcrowd my plate with lots of fruit and veggies. So when I am eating, my plate is filled up with vegetables. So for dinner, I will have a big salad and maybe a small piece of protein. They say that you're supposed to eat protein that's about the size of your hand. So for me, that might be some tofu or some sort of lentil patty or something like that. For other people, that might be a piece of meat or a piece of fish. So when we talk also, I would just mention before about increasing our fiber, something that is important to do is increase different types of fiber. So as well as fruit and veggies, we should be eating whole grains, nuts and seeds. They're really beneficial to include in our diet. So some ways that we can do that is, for instance, do a simple swap. So if you're used to eating white bread, you might want to change that to a wholemeal bread or a multigrain bread. It's just about having a spectrum of what you're used to and slowly changing it up on the spectrum. Maybe moving along the spectrum. It's not about, these tips are not about changing everything overnight. It's about doing something small to increase the absorbency and nutrient value that you're getting from your food. So another thing that I like to try and do with my family is try healthier options for our favorite foods. So for instance, instead of getting a takeaway burger from somewhere, why not make the burgers at home? You can control which ingredients you're using inside the burger patty itself, also which bread you're using, and you can add in vegetables or maybe saute some onions or something like that, which would be really yummy, onto the burger. So that's a really easy thing to do and something that really can help your health by not getting so much takeaway food. Takeaway food has its time and place, but making things at home most of the time is a better option for your health. I like to also, just as an aside, add a lot of herbs to my salads. I like to try different fruits and vegetables. So if there's something like, I grew up eating one type of salad, which was just lettuce, carrots, tomatoes, and cucumber. So now I like to explore all the other vegetables because there's so many different vegetables around that we can add into our salads. And salads don't always need to be cold. They can also be warm. We can roast our veggies and make a salad with that. We can saute veggies and make a salad with that, which is really yummy as well. Another good tip that I like to use is to batch cook my food. So I will often make a stew or a soup with a protein in it on a Sunday afternoon, and I will eat that all week. That will be my lunch or dinner, depending what I'm doing that day and depending what else I'm eating. And that helps me to be organized. I know that if I don't have a lot of time in my day, I've always got something in the fridge that I can quickly grab, heat up in a pan, and it's ready for me to eat throughout the week, and it's really yummy. And because I make it myself, for myself, I can add in whatever yummy ingredients I feel like eating that week. I think something else that is a good tip I heard quite a few years ago is to really slow down your eating. So really chew your food well. A lot of people tend to sort of gulp in their food because it's really yummy, it tastes good, or maybe they don't have a lot of time. But really taking the time, being mindful when you eat, to really chew your food is really beneficial for your health, because our digestion actually starts in our mouth. The saliva combines with the food, and that's the beginning of the process of our digestion. So when we chew our food really well, we're mixing it with saliva, that it begins the digestive process. And just really slowing down and taking the time to enjoy what you're eating. Have mindful mouthfuls of your food and enjoy it, because food is all yummy. Just a few other tips that I try to incorporate in my day. Making sure that I have enough fluids, so decreasing the amount of sugary drinks, whether that be fizzy drinks or fruit juices, both of them are quite high in sugar. So reducing the amount of fizzy drinks we have and increasing the amount of water or herbal teas that you might like to have. If you don't like water, you can always add some fruit, like some strawberries and some mint, or some wedges of lemon in. And that can be a really yummy way to get more liquid and fluids and just plain water into your diet. And one other thing I wanted to point out to you all as well is snacks. A lot of people always ask me, what snacks should I eat? So the quickest and easiest snacks we can eat is a handful of nuts or a banana, or something so simple like that. You don't need to pay a lot of money at the supermarket for snacks for your family or for yourself. It's snacks that are very processed and quite sugary. Keep it really simple. Doesn't have to be a whole event. Just a piece of fruit, some nuts, something like that, or a yogurt, or whatever you like to munch on, is a really good way to have a snack. And the final thing that I want to point out is, it's really, as I'm a yoga teacher, need to include this, it's really important also to have mindfulness breaks. So that might be doing a yoga class, or going for a walk, or just having a break from what you're doing so that you can really relax and enjoy your time, both cooking in the kitchen, eating, and just living an all-around healthy lifestyle. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that's provided you with some ideas to be able to explore more of a healthy eating lifestyle, and I hope you're all well and healthy. Bye.
This week's Parsha, Vaetchanan, which is my Bar Mitzvah Parsha. I would like to first say Mazel Tov to the other Vaetchanan Bar Mitzvah boys, Ron Danko, Jeff Sable and Jack Sachs, and look forward to hosting our Kiddush next year to celebrate the occasion when the world has recovered from COVID. Vaetchanan confronts us with an apparent redundancy. Several admonitions throughout the Parsha command us to observe the laws taught by Moshe. Then, towards the end of the Parsha, we are told, "And you shall do that which is right and good in the eyes of God." Surely, doing what is right and good is part of the numerous injunctions already presented. If one observes all the commandments and prohibitions set forth in the Torah, does he not accomplish what is right and good in the eyes of God? What new obligations does this verse apply? Both Rashi and Rambam understand that this verse to denote a level of behavior that is lifnim mishuras hadin, above the letter of the law. To appreciate the full spirit of the law, one needs to read between the lines of the Torah, and one who does this shows a sincere desire to observe Hashem's bidding. The story is told of a poor man who came to Brisker Rav on Erev Pesach with a question. Could he use milk instead of wine for the 4 cups at the Seder? The Brisker Rav didn't reply. Instead, took 5 rubles from his own pocket and gave them to the man. The Rav's wife wondered why he had given so much money to the man. Wouldn't 1 ruble have been enough to buy wine, she asked. True, the brisker Rav answered, but if he was planning to drink milk for the Seder, that means he had no money for meat either. I gave him enough for both wine and meat. The brisker Rav combined both keen perception and with the adherence to the spirit of the law. For though he could have answered the poor man's question, he went the extra mile to ensure that the poor man would fulfill the mitzvahs of Pesach as well as enjoy the festive spirit. A similar precept is encapsulated in the verse, "You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy." It is possible, the Rambam comments, for a person to keep the letter of the law while violating its spirit, thus becoming a Naval Birshus HaTorah, a degenerate within the confines of the Torah. The Torah commands us to be holy, to sanctify ourselves even in those circumstances that are permitted according to the strict interpretation of the law. Those 2 verses complement each other. "You shall be holy" tells us to take a step back in order to uphold the spirit of the law. It tells us that even though certain acts seem permitted, we must nevertheless demonstrate self-restraint to prevent the spirit of the law from being violated. In doing so, we become holy. At the same time, "You shall do that which is right and good" tells us to take a step forward in order to promote the spirit of the law. Though we may find ourselves in situations where we feel we can sit back and not get involved, the spirit of Torah demands that we take initiative and get involved. The Talmud states that Jerusalem was destroyed because her inhabitants failed to raise their standard of behavior above the letter of the law. It is therefore fitting that Vaetchanan is always read on Shabbat Nachamu, the Shabbat of comfort, which follows Tisha B'Av. If we live up to the message of this Parsha, by doing what is right and good in the eyes of the God, we'll be deserving of redemption and merit in the rebuilding of the temple. Shabbat Shalom.
The yahrzeit for the upcoming week: Joseph Beckenstein for his father, Malva Friedlander for her mother, Kevin Milstein for his son, Rosalie Aroni for her father, and Michelle Blattman for her grandmother. Wish you all long life. Upcoming Jewish birthdays: Michelle Gotthelf, Aidan Green, Elijah Mills, Shelley Oberler, Sarah Siegel, and Jack Sachs. We wish you all a very happy Jewish birthday. In this week's Parsha of Vaetchanan, the Torah states that you may not add or subtract anything from the Torah law. The Torah doesn't change. But this begs a very big question. In order to create and sustain a dynamic living society that constantly changes and develops, you must be able to adapt the law to be able to sustain this society. Change is an essential part of a developing society and the things that govern it. How can the Torah be so rigid and saying that the laws of the Torah can never be changed? There are many answers given to this. I'd like to share with you one of them. Change in society applies only to the external technicalities of life. For example, the way we dress, the way we communicate, the way we travel. For example, in ancient times, they traveled by horse and buggy. Then they traveled by train. Now we fly with jets. But when it comes to the essential human being, the human psyche, humans don't change. For example, when you wake up in the morning and we walk outside and we benefit from the beautiful rays of the sun, would we ever say that the sun has been here for so long, it's outdated, let's replace it with some other type of modern light? We benefit from the same sun that the first man benefited from. When we breathe air, We're breathing the same air, or the same type of air, that the first man breathed. Even the food that comes on our table may be a little bit more sophisticated, but essentially, it's the same bread that the ancient people ate. When it comes to the faith of Israel, the law of Israel, it's like the sun, air, and bread. Because the Torah law and the faith of the Torah addresses the human psyche, the essential human being, which never ever changes. The Torah law addresses our frailties, our weaknesses, our anxieties, our strengths, our ambitions, our desires, our fears, what we love, our envy, our jealousy, our sense of purpose and meaning. These essential things don't change. Human beings essentially don't change. In addition, the Torah law addresses the soul. It nurtures and protects the Jewish soul. The soul is eternal, it never changes. Just to paraphrase this idea, say somebody buys a machine or a gadget and it comes with a manual from the manufacturer. And in the manual, there's instructions on how to use it and how to protect it. And say after 10 years, you say to yourself, these instructions are outdated. Let's find some other instructions. That would be a ridiculous statement, because the manual was made by the manufacturer who designed this machine and gadget and knows how it must be used and protected. The same thing. God is the manufacturer of the essential human being. The Torah is the manual and the instructions that God gave us on how to protect and nurture the essential human being. Man can only advise on the externalities of life. Man is not the manufacturer of the essential human being. How much we delve into the psyche of the human being, we still don't know everything. So man's law must change to adapt to the external technicalities of life. But God, who's the manufacturer of the essential human being and truly knows how it functions and how it should function, his law never changes. Have a wonderful Shabbos.